The black human ship moved slowly through space near the Kepler 442 system. Its name was USS Dakota, and it was far from Earth. Captain Lisa Harper sat in her chair on the bridge, watching the stars on the main screen. She had short brown hair and calm blue eyes. Her crew of 200 people had been traveling for 3 weeks on a simple mission to explore this part of space. "Captain," said Communications Officer Chris Parker from his station. He was a young man with red hair who always spoke clearly. "I'm picking up something strange on long-range sensors." Lisa turned to look at him. "What kind of strange?" "Ships, ma'am, 12 of them. They're big, and they're coming this way fast." The bridge became quiet. Everyone stopped what they were doing to listen. Chief Engineer Ryan Kelly, a tall man with gray hair, looked up from his console. "Those aren't human ships, Captain. The engine signatures are completely different." Lisa felt her heart beat a little faster, but she kept her voice calm. "How long until they reach us?" "About 10 minutes at their current speed," said Navigation Officer Karen Walsh. She was a small woman with black hair who never made mistakes. "With numbers, red alert," Lisa said. The lights on the bridge changed to red, and an alarm sounded throughout the ship. "All hands to battle stations." First Officer Ben Clark, a steady man in his 40s, moved to stand beside Lisa's chair. "Should we try to run, Captain?" Lisa shook her head. "We need to know what they want. If they're hostile, running might make things worse." "Chris, can you identify the ships?" Chris worked at his station, his fingers moving quickly over the controls. "I think they're Zelari, Captain. The ship designs match what we have in our database." Everyone on the bridge knew about the Zelari. They were an alien race that had built a large empire by conquering other worlds. They had better technology than most species and were known for being aggressive. Humans had heard stories about them, but had never met them face to face. "They're slowing down," said Tactical Officer Tony Rodriguez. He was a serious man who always watched for danger. "They're taking positions around us. It looks like they want to surround our ship." On the main screen, the alien ships became visible. They were red and gold, with sharp edges and weapon ports that glowed with energy. Each ship was 3 times bigger than the Dakota. The largest ship, which looked like it was in charge, had spikes along its hull that made it look even more threatening. "Incoming transmission," Chris announced. "They're trying to talk to us." "Put it on screen," Lisa ordered. The screen changed to show an alien face. It had purple skin, yellow eyes, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. The creature wore a military uniform covered in medals and symbols of rank. "Human vessel," the alien said in a deep, growling voice. "I am Admiral Vextar of the Zelari Imperial Fleet. You are in space, claimed by the Zelari Empire. You will surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded." Lisa stood up slowly. She was not very tall, but she had the kind of presence that made people listen when she spoke. "I am Captain Lisa Harper of the USS Dakota. This system is not marked as Zelari territory in any of our star charts. We are on a peaceful mission and have no intention of causing trouble." Admiral Vextar's yellow eyes seemed to glow brighter. "Your charts are wrong, human. This space belongs to us. You will shut down your engines and weapons. Any resistance will be met with force." "I'm afraid I can't do that, Admiral," Lisa replied, calmly. "However, I am willing to discuss this situation. Perhaps we can find a solution that works for both of us." The alien admiral made a sound that might have been laughter, but it sounded more like a growl. "You think you can negotiate with us? You are one small ship. We are 12 large warships with enough firepower to destroy a planet. Surrender now, or we will take your ship by force." Lisa looked around at her crew. She could see the worry in their eyes, but also determination. These were good people who trusted her to make the right choice. She turned back to the screen. "Admiral, I respect your position, but I cannot surrender my ship and crew without cause. We have done nothing wrong. If you insist on conflict, you will find that humans are not as easy to defeat as you might think. Vexstar's expression changed. His eyes narrowed, and his sharp teeth showed in what looked like an angry smile. Is that a threat, human? It's a statement of fact, Lisa said quietly. The alien admiral cut the transmission. The screen went back to showing the enemy ships, which were now moving to completely surround the Dakota. Captain, said Dr. Helen Ross, the ship's science officer. She was a smart woman who always spoke carefully. I'm reading massive energy buildups on all their ships. They're powering up their weapons. Shields up, Lisa ordered. All weapons. To ready status. Ma'am, said Intelligence Officer Steve Martinez, a quiet man who noticed everything. They don't know what kind of ship we really are. Our records show that most aliens think human technology is primitive. Lisa nodded. The Dakota was not just any human ship. It was the newest and most advanced warship Earth had ever built. It carried weapons and defenses that no alien race had ever seen. The problem was that 12 enemy ships were still 12 enemy ships. Captain, Chris said urgently. They're demanding our surrender again. Admiral Vexstar says this is our last chance. Lisa sat back down in her chair. She looked at each member of her crew, these brave people who had followed her into the unknown parts of space. Then she looked at the enemy ships on the screen, so confident in their superior numbers and firepower. Chris, open a channel to the alien fleet, she said. Channel open, Captain. Lisa's voice was calm and clear as she spoke to the Zelari Admiral, Admiral Vexstar. This is Captain Harper. I want to make something very clear to you and your fleet. We did not come here looking for a fight, but if you force one upon us, you will discover that humans are full of surprises. I strongly suggest you reconsider your current course of action. She gestured to Chris, who closed the channel. What are your orders, Captain? Ben asked quietly. Lisa looked at the 12 alien ships surrounding them, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. Then she looked at her crew, ready to follow her anywhere. We show them what happens when someone threatens a human ship, she said with a small smile. Ryan, power up the special systems. Amanda, prepare the demonstration package. Tony, get ready to show our new friends why humans have survived this long in a dangerous galaxy. The crew moved quickly to their tasks. Outside, the Zelari ships moved closer, confident that the single human vessel would soon be theirs. They had no idea that they were about to learn a very important lesson about underestimating humanity. The Zelari ships moved into attack formation around the USS Dakota. Admiral Vexstar watched from his command chair aboard the flagship Crimson Talon. His yellow eyes studied the human ship on his screen. It looked small and weak compared to his mighty warships. Target their engines, Vexstar ordered his weapons officer. I want them disabled, not destroyed. We need prisoners to question about human military strength. Yes, Admiral, replied the weapons officer, a younger Zelari with green skin and sharp claws. All ships report, ready to fire. On the Dakota, Captain Lisa Harper sat calmly in her chair. Her crew worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. They all knew what was about to happen, and they were ready. Ryan, status on the cloaking system? Lisa asked. Chief Engineer Ryan Kelly smiled from his station. All systems green, Captain. The new stealth technology is working perfectly. Amanda, weapons ready. Weapons Officer Amanda Price, a tall woman with blonde hair, nodded. Kinetic strike system is online. Precision targeting is locked and loaded. Chris, are you monitoring? Their communications. Communications Officer Chris Parker grinned. Already inside their network, Captain. They're using old encryption that our computers cracked in about 10 seconds. Lisa looked at the enemy ship surrounding them. 12 against 1. Any normal ship would be doomed. But the Dakota was not normal. It was humanity's newest and most secret weapon, designed to show the galaxy that humans were not the primitive race many aliens believed them to be. "Execute demonstration protocol," Lisa ordered. "Aye, Captain," her crew responded together. The first thing that happened was impossible, at least according to Zellery's science. The human ship simply vanished. One moment it was there on their sensors, surrounded and helpless. The next moment, there was nothing but empty space. "What happened?" Admiral Vexter roared. "Where did they go?" His science officer, a nervous Zellari with purple spots on his forehead, worked frantically at his controls. "I don't know, sir. They just disappeared. No explosion, no debris, nothing. It's like they were never there." "Ships don't just disappear," Vextar shouted. "Find them. All." 12 Zellari ships began scanning the area with every sensor they had. They searched for heat signatures, energy readings, gravitational disturbances, anything that might reveal where the human ship had gone. They found nothing. What they didn't know was that the Dakota was still there, floating invisible, just a few kilometers away. The new human cloaking technology didn't just hide the ship from sensors. It bent light and energy around the hull, making the ship completely undetectable to any known scanning method. "They're looking everywhere except where we are," laughed Navigation Officer Karen Walsh as she watched the alien ships spin in circles, searching desperately. "Time for the next part of the demonstration," Lisa said. "Amanda, pick the ship on our port side. Disable their shield generator only. Make sure you don't hurt anyone." "Understood, Captain." Precision kinetic strike, non-lethal force. The Dakota fired a single, invisible projectile. It was a small piece of metal, accelerated to incredible speed by magnetic fields. The shot was so precise that it struck exactly one specific piece of equipment on the Zellari ship and nothing else. Suddenly, one of the enemy vessels began flashing warning lights. Its shields flickered and died. The captain of that ship sent an urgent message to Admiral Vextar. "Admiral, our shields are down. Something hit our shield generator, but we can't see what fired at us." Vextar stared at his tactical display. How could something be shooting at his ships when there was nothing there to shoot? "All ships, fire at the area where the human ship disappeared. Maximum spread, full power." The 11 remaining ships opened fire with their plasma cannons. Bright green energy bolts filled the space where the Dakota had been. They hit nothing but empty vacuum. While they were firing blindly, the invisible Dakota moved to a new position. A few seconds later, another precisely aimed kinetic shot disabled the shield generator of a second Zellari ship. "This is impossible," Vextar screamed. "How are they doing this?" His chief engineer, a old Zellari named Zikmer, approached the admiral's chair. "Sir, I've been studying the attacks. Whatever weapon they're using, it's not energy-based, like our plasma cannons. It appears to be a physical projectile, moving at extreme velocity. So what? Our armor can handle kinetic weapons. Not like this, sir. The precision is perfect. They're not trying to destroy our ships. They're surgically removing specific systems. That level of accuracy suggests technology far beyond what we expected from humans." As if to prove his point, a third Zellari ship lost its shields to another impossible shot from an invisible enemy. On the Dakota, Tactical Officer Tony Rodriguez was enjoying himself. 343, Captain. Their shield generators are completely offline, but no casualties. "Excellent shooting, Amanda," Lisa said. "Chris, how are they handling this psychologically?" Chris Parker was listening to the panicked communications between the Zellari ships. "They're confused and getting scared. Captain Admiral Vexter is demanding explanations that his crew can't provide." "Perfect. Tony, execute maneuver pattern Alpha. Let's show them how a human ship really moves." The Dakota began a series of movements that would have been impossible for any Zellari vessel. It appeared briefly behind one enemy ship, just long enough to be seen on sensors, then vanished again. A few seconds later, it appeared on the opposite. side of the formation, fired another precise shot, and disappeared once more. To the Zelari, it looked like the human ship was teleporting around their formation at will. They had never seen anything move so fast or disappear so completely. All ships, close formation. Vextar ordered desperately. Whatever they're doing, we'll catch them if we stick together. The Zelari ships moved closer to each other, trying to create a wall of overlapping sensors and weapons fire. It didn't work. The Dakota simply appeared above their formation, dropped down between two ships, disabled both their weapon systems with twin kinetic strikes, and vanished again before anyone could react. 6 ships disabled, Amanda reported. Still no casualties. Captain, they're learning that we could destroy them easily if we wanted to, Lisa observed, but we're choosing to show mercy. Chris, what's their communications chatter saying now? They're starting to realize that we're not trying to kill them, Captain. Some of the ship captains are asking Admiral Vextar if they should withdraw. Not yet, Lisa said. We need to make sure they understand the full scope of the lesson. Amanda, target the Admiral's ship. Take out their main communication array, but be very careful not to damage life support or navigation. Targeting the Crimson Talon's communications, Captain. The kinetic shot struck Admiral Vextar's flagship with surgical precision. Sparks flew from the communication station, and several Zelari officers jumped back in alarm. Admiral, shouted the communications officer, our long-range communications are down. We can't contact the fleet command. Vextar was beginning to understand that he had made a terrible mistake. This human ship was not just more advanced than he had expected. It was so far beyond Zelari technology that his 12 warships might as well have been toys. Suddenly, the Dakota appeared directly in front of the Crimson Talon, close enough that Vextar could see the details of its black hull on his main screen. The human ship was beautiful and deadly, with clean lines and weapons ports that looked nothing like Zelari designs. Then the impossible happened again. A voice spoke directly through the Crimson Talon's internal communication system, in perfect Zelari language. Admiral Vextar, this is Captain Harper of the USS Dakota. As you can see, we have complete control of this situation. Your ships are disabled, your communications are down, and you are at our mercy. However, we are not your enemy. We came here in peace, and we still prefer a peaceful solution. Vextar looked around his bridge in shock. How had the human gotten into their ship's communication system? How did she speak Zelari so perfectly? How had they learned his name? You have demonstrated your superiority, Vextar said, his voice much quieter than before. What do you want? I want you to understand something very important, came the calm reply. Humans are not the primitive species you believed us to be. We are willing to be friends with other races, but we will not be threatened or attacked. You have one opportunity to withdraw your forces and report that humans are not the easy conquest you thought we were. The Zelari admiral looked at his tactical display. 7 of his 12 ships were disabled. The human ship could destroy his entire fleet whenever it chose to do so. His crew was looking at him, waiting for orders. And if I refuse, he asked, then you will discover why humans have survived this long in a dangerous galaxy, Captain Harper replied. Choose wisely, Admiral. Admiral Vextar stared at the human ship floating in front of his flagship. His pride as a Zelari warrior fought against the cold reality of his situation. 7 of his ships were disabled by an enemy he couldn't even see most of the time. His crew looked at him with fear in their eyes, waiting for his decision. But Vextar was too proud to back down. In his long career, he had conquered 12 different star systems for the Zelari Empire. No primitive human was going to make him retreat. Communications, officer, contact Fleet Command immediately, he ordered. Sir, our long-range communications are down, remember. The officer replied nervously. Then use the emergency quantum transmitter, Vextar growled. Tell them we need reinforcements, and permission to use quantum torpedoes. His crew exchanged worried looks. Quantum torpedoes were weapons of mass destruction, capable of destroying entire space stations. They were only used in the most desperate situations. "Admiral," said his chief science officer carefully, "are you sure that's wise? The humans have shown they could destroy us at any time, but they've chosen not to kill anyone. Perhaps we should consider their offer." Vextor's yellow eyes flashed with anger. "I will not be humiliated by an inferior species. Send the message." On the Dakota intelligence officer Steve Martinez was monitoring all Zelari communications. He turned to Captain Lisa Harper with a serious expression. "Captain, they're calling for backup. Admiral Vextar is requesting permission to use quantum torpedoes against us." Lisa felt a cold chill run down her spine. She had read about quantum torpedoes in the intelligence reports. They were incredibly destructive weapons that could punch through almost any defense. "How long until reinforcements arrive?" she asked. "Based on their fleet positions, about 2 hours for the closest ships. But the quantum torpedo authorization could come through much sooner." First Officer Ben Clark moved closer to Lisa's chair. "Captain, maybe we should withdraw while we can. We've made our point." Lisa shook her head. "If we run now, they'll think they scared us off. That will make them bolder in future encounters with human ships. We need to finish this lesson properly." Dr. Helen Ross looked up from her science station. "Captain, I've been analyzing the quantum torpedo specifications from their communications. It's a serious threat, even to our shields." "How serious?" "If they hit us directly with one, we'd survive, but we'd be badly damaged. If they hit us with several, ... Helen didn't finish the sentence. Lisa stood up and walked to the main screen, looking at the Zelari ships. She could see weapons ports opening on several vessels, preparing for another attack. The alien admiral was about to make this situation much worse. "Chris, open a channel to the Zelari High Command directly. I want to speak to whoever makes the real decisions." Chris Parker worked at his controls for several minutes. "Captain, I've hacked into their command network. I can put you through to Zelari High Command, but they'll know we've broken their most secure communication system." "Do it." The main screen changed to show a massive chamber filled with Zelari leaders. They wore elaborate robes and jewelry that marked them as the most powerful beings in their empire. In the center sat an ancient Zelari with silver skin and scars across his face. "I am Supreme Commander Thaxanel of the Zelari High Command," the old alien said in a voice like grinding metal. "How did you access this communication channel?" "I am Captain Lisa Harper of the USS Dakota. We accessed your channel the same way we've been doing everything else today, with technology you didn't know existed. I'm calling to prevent an unnecessary escalation of this conflict. You are the human who has been embarrassing Admiral Vextar." "I'm the human who has been trying to avoid killing Admiral Vextar and his crews," Lisa replied calmly. "He's requesting permission to use quantum torpedoes against my ship. I want you to understand what will happen if you grant that permission." Supreme Commander Thaxanel leaned forward in his chair. "Are you threatening the Zelari High Command?" "I'm educating you," Lisa said firmly. "You've spent today learning that human technology is more advanced than you thought. If you escalate this to weapons of mass destruction, you'll discover that our weapons are just as advanced as our defenses." The Zelari leaders began talking among themselves in their own language. Lisa could see they were arguing, but Chris was translating their words for her through her earpiece. "Half of them want to authorize the quantum torpedoes," Chris whispered. "The other half think you're right about human technology being more dangerous than they expected." Supreme Commander Thaxanel raised his hand for silence. "Human Captain, you have demonstrated impressive capabilities. But we are the Zelari Empire. We do not back down from inferior species. Then you're about to learn why humans are not inferior," Lisa said quietly. She cut the communication and turned to her crew. They're going to authorize the quantum torpedoes. Ryan, bring all our defensive systems online. Amanda, prepare the gravitational pulse cannon for defensive fire. Captain, said Marine Commander Julia Davis, a tough woman who commanded the ship's security forces, permission to speak freely. Go ahead, Julia. We could end this right now. Our weapons could destroy their entire fleet in minutes. Why are we playing defense? Lisa looked around at her bridge crew. These were good people who trusted her judgment, but she could see they were worried. The Zelari were about to use their most powerful weapons, and her crew wanted to strike first, because the moment we start killing them, we become the aggressors, Lisa explained. Right now, we're the victims, who are defending themselves. That's a very important distinction for future diplomatic relations. A new alarm sounded on the bridge. Captain, called Tony Rodriguez, from his tactical station. I'm detecting massive energy buildups on the Zelari flagship. They're loading quantum torpedoes. How many? 3 tubes, Captain, all aimed at us. Lisa sat back down in her chair. This is where we find out if our new technology really works under combat conditions. All hands, brace for impact. The quantum torpedoes launched from the Crimson Talon in streaks of blue light. They moved incredibly fast, crossing the distance to the Dakota in seconds. Each torpedo carried enough destructive power to level a city. What happened next would change galactic politics forever. Instead of trying to dodge or shoot down the torpedoes, the Dakota did something unprecedented. Panels opened along its hull, revealing strange crystalline arrays that began to glow with white light. As the quantum torpedoes struck these arrays, something impossible occurred. The weapon's energy didn't explode. Instead, it was absorbed, drawn into the ship's hull like water being soaked up by a sponge. The Dakota's power readings spiked dramatically as it converted the torpedo energy into raw power for its own systems. On the Zelari flagship, every instrument went crazy. What just happened? Admiral Vextar demanded. Sir, his science officer said in a voice full of disbelief, they absorbed our quantum torpedoes. The energy readings show that our most powerful weapons just made their ship stronger. Across the Zelari fleet, panic began to spread. Crews that had been confident in their superior firepower now realized they were facing something beyond their understanding. But Captain Harper wasn't finished with her demonstration. Amanda, she said calmly, show them what happens when you feed quantum torpedo energy into a gravitational pulse cannon. Yes, ma'am. Targeting solution locked on the 2 ships furthest from the flagship. Fire. The Dakota's main weapon discharged with a sound like reality tearing apart. A wave of gravitational distortion swept across space, creating a localized gravity well that caught 2 Zelari ships and crushed them like tin cans. The vessels imploded in seconds, their hulls collapsing under impossible gravitational forces. The remaining Zelari ships immediately began broadcasting surrender signals. Admiral Vextar sat in his command chair, staring at the empty space where 2 of his ships had been. In 30 years of military service, he had never seen anything like what the human ship had just done. Admiral, his communications officer said quietly, we're receiving surrender requests from 8 of our remaining ships. They want permission to withdraw. Vextar looked at the human ship on his screen. It sat there calmly, as if destroying 2 warships with a single shot was just another day's work. Get me a direct line to the human captain, he said finally. Admiral Vextar appeared on the Dakota's main screen. His purple skin had turned a pale gray color, and his yellow eyes no longer held their earlier arrogance. Behind him, his bridge crew worked frantically at damaged control stations. Captain Harper, he said, his voice much quieter than before. I wish to discuss terms. Lisa studied the alien admiral's face. She could see fear there, but also something else, a grudging respect that hadn't been present before. What terms did you have in mind, Admiral? Safe passage for my remaining ships. We will withdraw from this system and report that humans are more capable than our intelligence suggested. Lisa was about to respond when Chris Parker held up his hand urgently. Captain, I'm intercepting communications from the Zelari High Command. They're sending more ships. A lot more ships. The main screen split to show Supreme Commander Thaxanal alongside Admiral Vexstar. The old Zelari leader's scarred face was twisted with anger. Admiral Vexstar, you will not retreat. The full battle fleet is coming to your position. We have authorized the use of planet-killer weapons, if necessary. Lisa felt her blood turn cold. Planet-killer weapons were exactly what they sounded like, devices capable of destroying entire worlds. The Zelari were escalating this beyond anything she had imagined. Supreme Commander, Lisa said, addressing the Zelari leader directly, you're making a serious mistake. End this now, and we can all walk away from this situation. Continue escalating, and you'll force me to show you capabilities that will change the balance of power in this galaxy forever. You are one ship, Thax roared. We are sending 50 warships, including our flagship dreadnought, the Eternal Conquest. No human vessel can stand against such firepower. You're right, Lisa said calmly. One human vessel couldn't handle 50 Zelari ships. The Zelari leaders looked satisfied until Lisa continued. Fortunately, the Dakota isn't just one ship. She nodded to Chief Engineer Ryan Kelly. Ryan, execute separation protocol. What happened next defied everything the Zelari thought they knew about starship design. The Dakota began to split apart, but not like a ship breaking up under stress. Instead, it separated into 3 distinct sections, each one armed and maneuverable. The command section, where Lisa and her primary crew remained, was the smallest but fastest part. The engineering section, commanded by Ryan Kelly, contained the ship's power systems and heavy weapons. The tactical section, under Tony Rodriguez's control, carried the most destructive armaments. Each section could fight independently, communicate with the others, and combine back together when needed. In essence, the Zelari now faced 3 advanced human warships instead of 1. Impossible, whispered Admiral Vexter. Ships don't work that way. Human ships do, Lisa replied. Each section has its own life support, weapons, shields, and faster-than-light drive. We can fight as 1 ship or 3, depending on what the situation requires. On his command screen, Admiral Vexstar watched as the 3 sections of the Dakota took different positions around his fleet. They moved with perfect coordination, like dancers who had practiced together for years. Admiral, his tactical officer said urgently, the approaching human ship sections are scanning our fleet. But it's not normal scanning. They're doing something to our computer systems. Chris Parker was indeed doing something to the Zelari computers. From his position in the command section, he was planting monitoring programs in every enemy ship's network. Captain, Chris reported, I've accessed their fleet database. The 50 ships coming toward us include 12 dreadnoughts and something called a world-ender device. Dr. Helen Ross looked up from her science station with concern. Captain, a world-ender is a gravitational weapon designed to destabilize planetary cores. If they're bringing that here, they're not planning to just defeat us, Lisa finished. They're planning to make an example that will terrify other human colonies. She opened a communication channel to all 3 sections of her ship. All sections, this is the captain. The Zelari are escalating to weapons of planetary destruction. That changes our rules of engagement. We are now authorized to use full defensive measures. From the engineering section, Ryan Kelly's voice came through clearly. Captain, the quantum absorption arrays are still charged from their torpedo attack. We have enough stored energy to power our heaviest weapons. Tony, what's our tactical situation? From the tactical section, Tony Rodriguez replied, all weapons systems green. Captain, gravitational pulse cannons are ready. Kinetic strike systems are loaded, and the new quantum disruptor is online. Lisa looked at the Zelari ships on her screen. Admiral Vextar was watching the human ship sections with growing alarm, while Supreme Commander Thaxanol continued to send threatening messages. From the Zelari homeworld, Admiral Vextar, Lisa said, I'm going to give you one final chance to end this peacefully. Order your reinforcements to turn around, and I'll let your current fleet withdraw with their lives. I don't have that authority anymore, Vextar admitted. Supreme Command has taken direct control of the operation. Then you're about to witness why humans prefer diplomacy over warfare, Lisa said sadly. We're not violent by nature, but we're very, very good at it when we need to be. The first wave of Zelari reinforcements dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. 15 massive dreadnoughts, each one larger than anything in the original fleet, appeared in perfect formation. Captain Steve Martinez called from his intelligence station. They're powering up planet-killer weapons. Energy readings suggest they're targeting the nearest human colony world, not us. Lisa's calm expression changed to cold anger. The Zelari weren't just threatening her ship anymore. They were threatening innocent civilians on human worlds. All sections, prepare for maximum demonstration of force, she ordered. Target the lead dreadnought. Show them what human engineering can really do. The 3 sections of the Dakota moved into attack formation. The engineering section positioned itself to provide maximum power. The tactical section aimed its heaviest weapons, and the command section coordinated the attack. What followed was a display of firepower that redefined what the Zelari thought was possible. The gravitational pulse cannon, powered by absorbed quantum torpedo energy, fired a beam that didn't just destroy the lead Zelari dreadnought. It tore a hole in space-time itself, creating a miniature black hole that consumed the enemy ship completely before evaporating harmlessly. The quantum disruptor, a weapon that had never been tested in actual combat, fired next. It caused 3 more dreadnoughts to simply cease to exist, their atomic structures unraveling at the quantum level. The kinetic strike system, firing at velocities approaching the speed of light, punched through 2 more enemy ships as if their armor was made of paper. In less than 30 seconds, 6 of the 15 Zelari dreadnoughts were gone. The remaining 9 immediately began broadcasting surrender signals. Supreme Commander, Admiral Vextar, said into his communication system, his voice shaking, I strongly recommend you authorize my withdrawal. These humans are not what we thought they were. On the command screen, Supreme Commander Thaxanol looked like he had aged 10 years in the past few minutes. What are they? There's something we should never have provoked, Vextar replied quietly. But Lisa wasn't finished. Her ship's sensors were showing that more Zelari reinforcements were still coming. The second wave included the massive flagship dreadnought, Eternal Conquest, and the World Ender device. Chris, open a channel to the entire Zelari fleet, including the approaching reinforcements. Channel open, Captain. Lisa's voice carried across space to hundreds of Zelari ships. This is Captain Lisa Harper of the USS Dakota. To all Zelari forces. You have seen a small demonstration of human defensive capabilities. If you continue this attack, especially if you deploy planetary destruction weapons, you will discover that humans have offensive capabilities that match our defenses. This is your final warning. The response came from the Eternal Conquest, still hours away, but closing fast. This is Fleet Admiral Korthnax, aboard the Eternal Conquest. Human, you may have destroyed a few ships, but we are bringing the full might of the Zelari war fleet. Surrender now, or we will turn your homeworld into cosmic dust. Lisa looked around at her crew. These brave people had followed her into the unknown, trusted her judgment, and performed magnificently under pressure. Now she had to make a decision that would affect the future of human-alien relations. Gentlemen and ladies, she said quietly, it appears we're going to have to be very persuasive. The second wave of Zelari ships appeared at the edge of the system like a storm cloud of death. 35 massive warships, led by the colossal flagship Eternal Conquest, moved toward the Dakota's position. The world-ender device traveled in the center of the formation. Protected by layers of dreadnoughts and battlecruisers, Captain Lisa Harper watched the approaching fleet on her tactical display. Even with the Dakota's advanced technology, those were overwhelming odds. But she had one more card to play, one that would change everything. "Chris, send a coded message on emergency frequency 77 Alpha," she ordered. "Yes, Captain." Message sent. Admiral Vextar, still trapped with his disabled ships near the Dakota, noticed the transmission. "Captain Harper, what was that message?" Lisa smiled for the first time since the battle began. "I was calling for backup." "Impossible, Fleet Admiral." Korthnak's voice boomed from the Eternal Conquest. "Our long-range sensors show no human ships within 50 light-years of this position." "Your sensors are correct," Lisa replied calmly. "There were no human ships within 50 light-years, but there are now." The space around the Zalari fleet suddenly filled with new contacts. Human ships appeared everywhere, seeming to materialize out of nothing. 50 sleek warships, each one as advanced as the Dakota, took positions around the surprised alien fleet. "Where did they come from?" Admiral Vextar whispered. "They were always there," Lisa explained. "Humanity learned long ago that the best way to avoid a fight is to be prepared for one. Those ships have been following your fleet since you left Zalari space, invisible to your sensors." Fleet Admiral Korthnax found himself surrounded by human vessels that his instruments couldn't properly detect, even when he knew they were there. Each ship seemed to shimmer and fade, appearing solid one moment and ghostly the next. "This is impossible," he transmitted. "No fleet could remain hidden for so long." "Human fleets can," came the reply from the USS Lexington, commanded by Captain Jake Morrison. "We've been watching your empire for months, learning your technology, studying your tactics. We know more about your capabilities than you know about ours." Supreme Commander Thaxanal Space appeared on communication screens throughout both fleets. The ancient Zalari leader looked older and more tired than ever before. "How many ships do you have?" he asked quietly. "Enough," Lisa answered. "More than enough to defend our colonies and our territory. The question is, how many Zalari lives are you willing to sacrifice to learn exactly how many?" The standoff stretched for long minutes. Hundreds of ships from 2 different species faced each other across the darkness of space. Weapons were charged, shields were raised, and crews on both sides waited for orders that would determine the future of galactic politics. Finally, Admiral Vextar spoke up. "Supreme Commander, I request permission to speak freely." "Granted." "Sir, I have spent today watching these humans demonstrate technology that makes our best weapons look primitive. They have shown mercy when they could have shown destruction. They have defended themselves without seeking conquest. Perhaps we should listen to what they have to say." "You suggest we negotiate with humans?" Thaxanal's voice was filled with disbelief. "I suggest we avoid a war we cannot win," Vextar replied honestly. "These people are not the primitive species our intelligence reports described. They are something far more dangerous and far more civilized than we are." Captain Harper opened a direct channel to the Zalari Supreme Commander. "Commander Thaxanal, I want to make you an offer. Withdraw your fleets, recognize human territorial claims, and establish formal diplomatic relations with Earth. In return, we will share some of our defensive technology with you." "Why would you help us after we attacked you?" "Because the galaxy is a big place with many threats. Humans believe in making allies, not enemies. We would rather have the Zalari Empire as friends than conquer you as foes." Fleet Admiral Korthnax interrupted the conversation. "Supreme Commander, I strongly advise against any agreement with these humans. We should deploy the World Ender device and show them the price of defying the Zalari Empire." Lisa's voice turned cold. "Admiral, if you deploy that weapon, you will discover that humans have planet-killer devices too. The difference is that ours work faster and more efficiently than yours. To prove her point, one of the human ships near the world-ender device fired a single precise shot. The blast didn't destroy the massive weapon, but it did completely disable its firing mechanism. Your world-ender is now just a very expensive piece of space junk, Lisa announced. We could have destroyed it completely, along with the ships carrying it, but we chose not to. That's the difference between humans and the enemies you're used to fighting. Supreme Commander Thaxuna looked at the tactical displays, showing his disabled weapon and the human ships surrounding his fleet. For the first time in his long career, he was facing an enemy that was clearly superior, but chose to show restraint. "What are your terms?" he asked finally. "Simple," Lisa replied. "Immediate withdrawal of all Zelari forces from systems claimed by humanity. Establishment of a neutral zone between our territories. Exchange of ambassadors and trade representatives. And most importantly, you will broadcast throughout your empire that humans are not a species to be conquered or threatened, and in return, we will share our shield technology with you, which will make your ships much harder to destroy in battles with other enemies. We will establish trade routes that will benefit both our peoples, and we will consider the Zelari Empire as potential allies rather than threats." The communication channels fell silent as the Zelari leadership considered the offer. It was clear to everyone that they had no choice. The human fleet could destroy them all if they chose to fight, but instead they were offering friendship and mutual benefit. Admiral Vextar Supreme Commander Thaxonal said finally, "What is your assessment of this offer?" "Sir, I believe the humans are genuine in their desire for peace. They have demonstrated overwhelming superiority, but have chosen mercy at every opportunity. I recommend we accept their terms." "Very well," Thaxonal announced. "The Zelari Empire accepts the human terms. All fleets will withdraw immediately to Zelari space." Captain Harper smiled as she watched the alien ships begin to turn away. "Excellent decision, Supreme Commander. I believe this is the beginning of a long and profitable relationship between our peoples." As the Zelari fleet departed, Admiral Vextar sent one final message to the Dakota. "Captain Harper, I want you to know that today has changed everything for the Zelari Empire. We thought we knew what strength was, but you have shown us the difference between power and wisdom." "Safe travels, Admiral," Lisa replied. "And remember, humans prefer to be friends, but we're very good at being enemies if we have to be." 3 hours later, the Dakota had reassembled into a single ship, and the human fleet had vanished back into stealth mode. Lisa sat in her captain's chair, reviewing the day's events with her senior staff. "Captain," Chris Parker said, "I'm receiving a message from Earth Command. They want a full report on the first official contact with the Zelari Empire." "Tell them the mission was a complete success," Lisa replied. "First contact protocols were followed, human territorial integrity was maintained, and diplomatic relations have been established. Should I mention that we had to demonstrate superior firepower to achieve these goals?" asked First Officer Ben Clark. Lisa considered this. "Tell them that the Zelari now understand that humans are not to be underestimated, and that they have agreed to peaceful coexistence." Dr. Helen Ross looked up from her science station. "Captain, I've been analyzing the battle data. The Zelari technology is actually quite advanced. If we can learn from each other, both species could benefit significantly." "That's the plan, Helen. Humanity doesn't want to conquer the galaxy. We want to make it a better place for everyone." Intelligence Officer Steve Martinez turned from his station. "Captain, I'm picking up communications from other alien species who are monitoring the battle. Word is spreading quickly about human capabilities." "Good," Lisa said. "The more species that understand we prefer diplomacy but are prepared for war, the fewer conflicts we'll face in the future." As the USS Dakota set course for Earth, carrying news of humanity's first major diplomatic victory in deep space, Captain Harper reflected on the day's events. They had faced overwhelming odds, demonstrated technological superiority, and chosen mercy over destruction. Most importantly, they had shown the galaxy that humans were not just another aggressive species seeking conquest. They were something new, a people who combined advanced technology with genuine desire for peace, but who were absolutely lethal when threatened. The message would spread throughout the galaxy. Humans preferred to talk, but if you forced them to fight, you would discover why they had survived and thrived in a dangerous universe. As Admiral Vexter reported to the Zalari High Command, his words would be remembered for generations. The humans are not what they appear to be. They are far more dangerous than we suspected, and far more merciful than we deserved. Treat them with respect, and they will be valuable allies. Threaten them, or their people, and you will face consequences beyond your worst nightmares. The age of human isolation in the galaxy was over. The age of human diplomacy, backed by unmatched military capability, had begun.